Now that the 4th of July festivities are over, we're finally through the midpoint of the 2026 housing market here in Denver and Boulder, and the June numbers are finally in. Here's everything you need to know about the market from Boulder to Denver, short enough to watch till the end and long enough to actually teach you something useful, whether you're a buyer, seller, or just a curious homeowner. I'm Stu Galvis with the Galvis Group, and I sell houses. Smart strategy, no hype. Let's go. Our top story is the duality of the neighboring markets, with the Boulder metro really heating up while the big cities seems to be hitting the summer doldrums. But let's start with Boulder because it's very, very clear. The statistic of the month in Boulder is new listings, which are down a whopping 20.5% year over year. That means 1 out of 5 listings never showed up, and that's not a vibe, that's a real supply shortage. As a result, overall inventory also fell, down 17% to just 3.9 months, edging toward seller leverage. But here's the kicker, demand didn't drop. With only 4 out of an expected 5 options available, buyers still bought what they could, so closed sales were basically flat year over year. But what does that mean? Well, imagine your favorite musical artist decides to play a really small venue. That's going to be a hard ticket to get, it's going to be expensive, and it's going to sell out fast. That's why median price point in Boulder was just shy of $900,000, up 6.3% in 1 year. But sellers, before you go getting greedy, this doesn't mean name your price. It means scarcity does some extra pushing for you, and if you're positioned right, you benefit. But if you're not, you can still suffer in any market. Now in Denver, we're seeing different activity, which means we've got to follow different rules. Inventory is almost flat, with new listings up just 2%. So there are a few more choices than this time last year, but the current overall supply is still about 4.3 months, exactly unchanged from this time last year. That's balanced, like truly balanced. Neither a buyer's market nor a seller's market. But balanced doesn't mean slow, not even close. Homes are still going under contract in a median of 18 days, so it still requires relatively quick decisions from prepared buyers. So here's the rule in Denver right now. Prep it right, price it right, position it right, and it'll be gone in under 3 weeks with no drama. Price it wrong and you become leverage. Your house becomes the house buyers use to negotiate other properties. Don't be the leverage. Seriously. Now to recap movement in the biggest determiner of market activity, mortgage rates held pretty steady in June, hovering around that 6.5% mark. The Fed held steady, which was no surprise, but then projections started to shift, hike talk returned, and inflation was still hot, so the market heard it and rates drifted up. Rude. But then bonds calmed, yields eased, and by July 2nd, we actually saw a dip down to just about 6.4%, which was a 7-week low. That was a nice window where rates got a little bit cheaper. Now we're back sitting around 6.5%. But when you zoom out, big picture, a year ago we were at 6.67, so we're actually much better than last summer. And don't expect a big drop soon. Not while the Fed is still saying hike out loud. But here's what you really need to remember. Rates didn't crash, and they didn't spike. But they moved enough to change payments. Call it $100 a month on a typical Boulder-median mortgage and maybe $60 a month for a median Denver mortgage. What moved was the cost of the rate, which relates to upfront points to buy down to a lower fixed rate. So if it was $12,000 to buy down any rate toward the end of June, it might cost around $24,000 to buy that same rate now. So if you're buying, you should pay attention and honestly, quit waiting on the sidelines. So now that you've got all the information, let's dial in the smart strategy for buyers, sellers, and homeowners. Buyers, if you're buying in Boulder, here's the deal. There just aren't that many options, so the good homes get attention immediately and then they're gone. You can't be kinda ready or almost ready, and you can't wait for one of those magical rate dip windows. Go ahead and get fully underwritten, not just pre-approved, so when the right home hits, you can write the same day. And keep your offers simple and clean with regard to terms and timeline. Keep the friction low because there are just as many buyers as there were last year and y'all are fighting over fewer options. Scarcity creates pressure. Now, Denver buyers, you've got more choices because it's a more even market, but it still moves. The median days to contract is still under 3 weeks, so if it's priced right, don't take a week to think about it. It'll be gone. Take a few hours, then take your shot. If you're the first person to submit an offer, you've still got good leverage. But you'll have even better leverage if it's been sitting 30 days or more. That's where you can slow down and get strategic. That's where you negotiate price, concessions, repairs, maybe a rate buy down if it makes sense. Now sellers? Boulder sellers, yeah, you've got a little bit of leverage with fewer listings and the same buyer count this year, but it doesn't mean be sloppy. It's not name your price, you still have to price it correctly, strategically, then let scarcity do the heavy lifting. Denver sellers, your market's different. You've got to prep it right, you've got to pull out all the stops, you've still got to price it right, and then position it to get in front of every buyer. And your first 2 weekends will tell you everything you need to know to make the right adjustment in case you're missing the mark. And homeowners, if you're not moving, you're just watching. But for those of you in and around Boulder, your prices are up over 6%. Denver, you're steady. The best next time to sell strategically would probably be next February through next April, but that's consequently the worst time to buy in our market, so think about strategy. And over the next 30 days, here's what we're going to watch. The thing that moves buyers into action is rates and inflation news, so the next inflation report really matters. I don't see Boulder inventory loosening anytime soon, but I do see the Denver summer doldrums creating more and more non-obvious opportunities for buyers and plenty of buyers for smart sellers. And that's it for the month of July housing market update. If you have any questions and want straight answers, feel free to reach out to my contact info in the bio and description. No pressure, no pitch, just smart strategy with no hype. I'm Stu Galvis and I sell houses. You stay classy, and we'll see you on the next one.